Hey there, darlings. Welcome back to Roots and Refuge Farm. My name is Jess. We are in my greenhouse, and today we are going to talk about pepper seeds. This is actually part 2. On the first part of this video, I talked about tomatoes. I split them up because I knew I was going to be very verbose when talking about these things, because I love to talk about plant varieties and I love to geek out during this time of year where it's cold and gray outside. But I am very excitedly planning my garden, and soon we'll be planting these seeds, starting them to start my garden season for 2025. This year I am reining it in. I have lowered the number of things that I am growing in attempts to really, one, just focus on my favorite things, focus on things that I know perform very well here in my garden, to be able to have my head around exactly what I want to do preservation-wise with the things that I'm growing. I am growing a lot for fresh eating this year. That's my #1 goal out of my garden, to eat fresh out of it every day, multiple times a day. But with the excess, I want to have a clear and concise plan of what I'm going to do with those things to be able to preserve them and use them for other parts of the year. So my pepper list is not super long this year, so I want to tell you what I'm growing and why. I will preface this by saying I don't really grow super hot peppers. I am toying with the idea of putting a few plants of something really hot like a Carolina Reaper or a Scotch bonnet in. I've never done that before, just because my children like move through my garden and eat really freely. So I would probably be like a ridiculous mom that like puts caution tape over something around the plants, like don't eat off these, because I mean you can really actually like it'd be very painful to eat one of those super hot, extremely hot peppers, but I've never grown them before, so I don't know. We don't eat super hot food, but I've thought I might enjoy playing around with making like some really hot sauces. So that's on the list with a question mark. Everything else I would say is like normal hot to mild and sweet that I'm growing. So let's start with the hot peppers. The first one, I'm growing Craig's Grande Jalapeno. This is my absolute favorite jalapeno pepper. They get really big. So the thing I like about Craig's Grande is that I can pickle these peppers, just have pickled jalapenos, but I can also very easily stuff them. I love stuffed jalapeno peppers. I mean, just from doing like basic things like jalapeno poppers where you put cream cheese in, wrap them with bacon, and throw them on the grill. I like making different fillings and putting them in jalapenos and cooking them down. I like stuffing jalapenos, and Craig's Grande is great for that because, I mean, sometimes they're like, I mean, they're really good sized jalapenos. I also just find them easier to pick, and because they do get so big, you can start picking them even when they're smaller. So they are sort of like an early fruit to be able to start harvesting when they're small, but then they get big really fast. And as far as production goes, you just get a lot from each plant because not only are they prolific, the fruits themselves are large. The other jalapeno I'm doing is called brown jalapeno, and this one's actually new to me. I normally do the pumpkin spice and lemon spice, which are 2 New Mex varieties that are just yellow and orange, and I do like those, and I've grown those pretty much every year. I like to wait until they turn colors. You can harvest those green, and then that way whenever I'm like pickling peppers and stuff, I have a mix of different colors. I decided not to do that this year just because the fruits themselves are not really large and they do take a while to turn colors, and I'm going to try the brown this year, and if I don't like that, next year I'll go back to the multicolored. For the most part, everything that I use jalapenos for, I just do the Craig's Grande because they're just such a great tried and true, and they do so well in my garden. Next, I'm doing Tabasco. I won't grow a lot of these. Honestly, 2 plants is pretty much all I need to be able to pick gallons and gallons of peppers. They take a little while to get started, but fermented Tabasco peppers are great and make a great hot sauce. Of course, you can soak them in vinegar and then use that vinegar on things like greens or on cornbread or different things like that. Or you can actually let those peppers get red and ferment them and then blend them into like Tabasco sauce. I mean, what you're used to seeing at the store. But they are extremely prolific. Like, you don't need a whole lot of those plants. Next, I'm doing habaneros. It's actually pretty much the spiciest pepper that I routinely grow. I like habaneros because while they do have a pretty good amount of heat, they also are very fruity. They've got like a really great flavor that goes really well in hot sauces. I like to make a peach habanero jam. I live in South Carolina, it's peach country here. And unfortunately, usually the peaches come on a little bit earlier than the habaneros really get kicking. So I usually have to cut up a bunch of peaches and freeze them and wait about a month until my habanero harvest really takes off, and then I can take the frozen peaches and make my jam. But it's really good, peach habanero jam. I like it just on anything because it's like the perfect mixture of spicy and sweet. I only put a handful of peppers in one batch, but you could do more if you wanted it real spicy. But it's good on things like cream cheese too, and crackers is like a little appetizer. Also Sugar Rush peach peppers. Now I put a question mark next to peach because there are other colors of Sugar Rush peppers. Some of them ripen to peach, some of them ripen more to red, and I'm growing them from some seeds that I saved, and I'm not exactly sure what variety it is. They're probably close to a habanero in heat. Also a really sweet, fruity pepper that goes really good in things like fruit jams or jellies, that goes really good into hot sauces. So I make one fermented hot sauce with these fermented Sugar Rush peppers and fermented peaches. You just put it all together and you cover it and let it sit out on the counter for a few days and then blend it all. I usually put garlic in it and some onions in it, and it is chef's kiss. Next, cayennes. Again, this is one that I'll only grow like a few plants of. I really only grow cayenne peppers to make pepper powder, to make cayenne pepper powder. So I don't really need a whole lot of those. I honestly, like a couple plants is probably overkill, but I usually do plant at least 2 or 3, even if I know I don't need all of them. That way, if like something comes and kills one of my plants, I have a backup. But I just harvest those and dehydrate them and grind them down into powder so that I have cayenne pepper. No, that's it for the hot peppers. And I didn't put really like a sweet section. I just put not hot because peppers are such a range. So for sweet peppers, actual like very sweet peppers, I've got Pippin's Golden Honey. That variety has really just made it onto my like must grow list in the last couple of years. It's such a good pepper. It's really neat. It starts out growing kind of streaky purplish, and then it ripens to like this golden orange, and it just has a really, really good flavor. So I really like eating those just fresh, snacking on them, but I dice them up in like scrambles, like for breakfast or in chilies. I put them in soups. We did them on like shish kebabs a lot, grilled them. They were super good. Also Ajvarski and Lesya. So these are different. The Ajvarskis are like a little bit thinner walled, a little longer red pepper. They're really good roasted, also really good grilled or diced and sauteed. It is red, and then the Lesya pepper is also red. And it has got the thickest walls. Like, I mean, they're like really, really thick, and it is really like a juicy pepper. Ajvarski and Lesya, I found their flavors to be somewhat similar, but I liked them both, and I decided to grow them both because I just like them both a lot. With all of those peppers, with Pippin's Golden Honey, Ajvarski, and Lesya, I'm using them all relatively interchangeably. You know, like cutting them into strips and eating them raw. Just biting into them and eating them raw, grilling them, roasting, dicing. I have not played with drying any of these to make any sort of like pepper powders, but I think it would be really good. Next, I've got orange bell peppers and Ozark giant bell peppers. All bell peppers start green and then they ripen to red or orange, or in the case of like you can get purple ones or brown ones. And I've grown I mean, I've grown all manner of bell peppers, but I find that what I end up using the most and what I find the easiest to process is just harvesting them green or just as they turn colors. And with the orange bell and the Ozark Giant ripens to red. They ripen relatively quickly. Some of those really cool colored varieties, as much as I like them, they all just change colors at varying times. You know, sometimes it's 10 or 15 days later than other varieties. And some of them have really, really thin walls. And so these two, the Ozark Giant and the Orange Bell, are just really solid. They're good green. They're good when they turn orange or red. And they kind of, in my experience in growing both of these, they kind of come to change colors around the same time, which helps when you're trying to say, today I want to go out and harvest a bunch of peppers and slice them into strips and put them in the freezer. It helps to have them all kind of becoming ripe around the same time. So I'm just doing those two, and I'm doing quite a lot of those. That's one thing that I wish I had preserved more of last year, was peppers in my freezer or dehydrator or freeze dryer. I did some, but that is one thing I'm actually hoping to do a lot of this year. There are a lot of things like eggplants, for instance. I don't mind eggplants being like a purely seasonal food. I don't feel the need to try to put up a lot of those. Okra. We eat a ton of okra when it's coming in, and I'll usually save some bags to do fried okra over the winter. I'll usually pickle some, but I mean, I'm not trying to just eat gobs of okra when it's not growing, because frankly, we eat gobs of okra when it is growing, and I'm okay with it being like, you know, a little bit throughout the rest of the year. But with tomatoes and peppers, those are things that I find myself needing in the winter. Like, I made chili last week and I had to go buy peppers at the store. And I would rather have them preserved in some way that when I'm getting through winter recipes, whenever they need tomatoes or peppers, I've got them preserved. Next, I've got poblanos. The poblanos that I grow are on the milder side. You can get a hotter version of poblano. Usually it's listed with the variety, whether it's a mild or a hot. But I really like poblanos for stuffed peppers. Like, also, if you want to make ancho chili powder, you make it out of poblano peppers. You just smoke them. So I'm growing those. And then there are two peppers that I always grow, and they are the definition of not hot. There's the Nadapeno, which is essentially a heatless jalapeno, and then there's the Habanada, which is a heatless habanero. And these are peppers that were just bred to have the same flavor as a jalapeno and a habanero, but without any of the heat. I always have to make sure I measure or mark these right and plant them on the other side of the greenhouse from the real jalapenos and habaneros so that I can keep them apart, because they look more or less the same. The Nadapenos, of course, if I'm growing Craig's Grande, those get really big. The Nadapenos aren't that big. But these are really great. Let's say you want to make like cowboy candy, or a recipe that uses jalapenos, or you want to make habanero peach jam, but you don't want it to be super hot, but you want more of the pepper flavor without amplifying the heat. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll make a recipe that has half of the real hot peppers and then half of the ones that don't have any heat, so I can really amplify that flavor without upping the pain level. They're also just really good to eat. Habanadas are very sweet. They're very fruity. I'll just munch on those raw. That's one of the peppers that I snack on the most when I'm like out working in the garden. I'll grab habanadas. Jalapenos I don't really snack on that much, because they really taste like a jalapeno with no heat. And jalapenos, I mean, they don't have like a fruity flavor per se. It's just that real green pepper flavor. But what I like to do with Nadapenos is I like to make like stuffed pepper poppers and stuff like that, so that, you know, I like them hot, but it's nice to be able to share things like that with people and friends that don't like hot. All right, I am filming this a couple hours after the rest of this video, because I actually starting seeds and realized that there were two varieties in my seed bag that I'd forgotten to write down on my list. There's two more peppers that are a part of this. The first one is Biquinho. And this pepper is really small. It is on the sweeter side. It's got a very small amount of heat. As the season progresses, they can get a little hotter, but I would never classify them as a hot pepper. This name means little beak. They're these just adorable little yellow peppers. And honestly, one plant of this is quite enough. I had 2 plants this last year, and I ended up, you know, letting other people pick them, and I couldn't use 2 plants worth of peppers. But what I love to do with these is to make little pickled peppers with them, and they're so good on like pizzas. We have a pizza oven, and we'll do pizzas and just put these pickled whole on the pizzas. They're great on charcuterie boards. They're great to just snack on. So I'm only starting like literally a few seeds. I like to have extras, so I'll probably have 2 plants again, but it'll be more than we need. But I would miss this pepper in my garden if I didn't grow it. The next one, and I cannot believe that I did not remember this the first time around, because this is unquestionably always going to be on my to-grow list. It may be my favorite pepper of all that I grow every year, and that is the Shishito pepper. Shishito peppers are neither sweet or hot. They're just kind of like a green pepper. They can, again, get a little bit of heat towards the end of the season, but I love roasting these. They are one of my absolute favorite garden snacks. You just harvest a bunch of them, poke holes in them, saute them in a little bit of oil in a hot pan, or throw them on the Blackstone, blacken them a little bit, and then make an aioli dip. Oh my goodness, they're so good. My friend Lesya puts there's a seasoning from Trader Joe's that's like lime and like chili that she puts on it, and that was amazing whenever I had that at her house. So I started doing that, but I mean, my mouth is literally watering talking about Shishito peppers right now. So of course I'm growing them. And I actually usually grow like 8 or so plants, maybe even 10 or 12, which that's a lot. Like, that is harvesting a lot of peppers. But I will very regularly, like if we're going to a cookout or we're having people over, like I will go harvest every Shishito we have and just make a whole bunch of them. And they always get completely eaten. Anytime I cook these for a crowd of people, I mean, everybody loves them as much as I do. So definitely on the to-grow list. That's the end of my list. Now, I have grown many peppers that I love in the past that I have raved about. Just because they're not on this list doesn't mean that I did not like them. As I said, I'm really streamlining this year to my favorite things and the things that I know work really well for me, just for the sake of having a garden that's just extremely enjoyable. And there are some peppers that I may really miss by the end of this season that I'll just look forward to putting in the garden next year. What are your non-negotiable must-grow peppers? As I said in my tomato video, I may be looking at the comments being like, oh yeah, that is a good one, but I am gonna keep my list really short. Dang it, I just remembered one. I'm gonna have to grow sweet banana peppers. Benjamin loves sweet banana peppers, and I did not put any on this list. See, okay, what I was about to say is I'm going to keep the list short, but I'm not saying that there's not something that I'm going to remember to be like, oh yeah, I absolutely have to have it. And then banana peppers came to mind. Sweet banana peppers. If you're unfamiliar with banana peppers, they're the long, kind of light greenish yellow peppers. They come in sweet or hot. And you can pickle them or candy them, but mostly we just eat them fresh. And that is my son Benjamin's favorite pepper to snack on in the garden, is sweet banana peppers. So yeah, there's one more to my list, but tell me what yours are. I'm actually starting seeds probably tomorrow. I may actually stick some in the soil today. These peppers can take a little while to get started. Now, where I live, I have a really long season, so once I put them in the ground, the sooner I start them, the sooner I'll eat them, but we'll still get plenty of a harvest. They'll grow all the way up to when the freeze comes, so. Anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with me and talking about one of my favorite things to talk about, which is plant varieties. Again, I'd love to hear what your non-negotiable varieties are, and I look forward to sharing this garden season with you. I bless you. Until next time.